What is the difference between Crohn's and IBS, and how do you know? Now, I am not a medical professional, I'm not a doctor, but here is what I do know about the difference between Crohn's, which is known as IBD, versus IBS. So Crohn's often affects your small intestine, which is this pink color here, and then the tanner color is your large intestine, which is where IBS can occur. Symptoms of IBS that are affecting that large intestine around the small intestine include bloating, constipation, diarrhea, or both. I also want to mention that Crohn's can also affect other parts of the intestine, not just the small intestine, but for me personally, it affects my small intestine. And you can also have IBS and have IBD, but IBS is kind of what I like to call it, a term that they use to diagnose someone when they don't know what's wrong with them. IBS is not going to permanently damage anything in the long term, most likely, whereas Crohn's can permanently damage, and you'll see people have surgery, they have to get parts of their intestine removed. The reason why is because you have an overactive immune system, it's an autoimmune disease, and body starts attacking the wrong things. So for me, it's attacking my small intestine, my terminal ileum, and creating ulcers there. Whereas IBS, you might just get uncomfortable bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and a lot of the times foods will trigger it. So if you are lactose intolerant, it'll get a lot worse, and stay away from things like dairy, gassy vegetables, and a lot of caffeine or alcohol. But those dietary preferences are also really helpful for people with IBD, like Crohn's or colitis too. It's a little bit tricky to answer. How do you know which one you have? The best way to find out is to go see a gastroenterologist and make sure you get a colonoscopy and endoscopy done. And I know it's a pain, but it's the easiest way to confirm or rule out what you have. I also had gastritis for a really long time, so I was glad I got an endoscopy done because I felt that I had discomfort in my stomach area, and I did. The endoscopy confirmed that the stomach lining was inflamed. But the colonoscopy confirmed that I had ulcers in my terminal ileum, but that wasn't even enough evidence for it to be conclusive that it was Crohn's, and it wasn't until 4.5 years later that I finally got diagnosed. I had 3 colonoscopies, a pill camera, an MRI, so much more. Both of them can be tricky and take a long time to narrow it down to what it is, but with IBS, there's no real treatment for it. You just really have to pay mind to your diet and what you are putting in your body and how you're taking care of yourself. With Crohn's, I find that there is a lot more fatigue that accompanies it versus IBS, and chronic fatigue feels like you haven't slept in 3 days and you feel like that all the time. It's also more common, although not in my case personally, but it is more common to have blood in your stool when you have Crohn's, and especially if you have ulcerative colitis. IBS wouldn't typically have blood in the stools accompanying it, but it could depending on how frequently you're going to the bathroom. Either way, if you're not sure which one you have and you're not getting the help you need,